Okay. Your presence in this plenary session sends a message that energy management is a big deal. But how big a deal is energy? Let's put some facts on the table. Do you know, as a global economy, we consume 22 million tons of coal every single day? Do you know that our rate of crude oil consumption could fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool every 15 seconds? That is 92.7 million barrels every day. Do you know that we consume 1 cubic kilometer of natural gas every 2.5 hours that passes by? In the year 2012, we added over 1,200 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere every single second. So that tells you energy is a very big deal. So energy management is seen as the first solution. The need for energy has never been as high as it is now. The need for secure, clean, and affordable energy has never been as high as it is now. The challenge is that renewable energy capacity is increasing, but the fossil fuels are also increasing. China has put up more fossil fuel than South Africa can put up renewable energy. So we need to turn to energy management as the first solution. It's the first low-hanging fruit that we can pluck in any organization or any nation. Now, how will it really help? Let's look at that in a bit of detail. There's an organization called the International Energy Agency, IEA. They refer to energy efficiency as the first fuel that any economy can turn to. They did a study in 11 of their member countries from 1973 to 2011. And by the way, 1973 is a critical year because that's when the first Arab oil embargo happened. And that's where most of the energy managers will tell you that was the birth of energy management. So from then to 2011, those 11 member countries had average energy efficiency improvements exceeding 15 million gigawatt hours. Now, if you put that in perspective, the green bar on your right-hand side is the total savings from energy efficiency. And the fuel consumption in those countries, you can see that the energy efficiency, energy savings exceeds even the oil consumption. So that means that the energy efficiency from these 11 countries was equal to 59% of the total energy consumption in these countries. That tells you that energy management is definitely the first fuel. So now let's look at the NCPC. Alf shared some very fantastic figures. We have a rounded off savings of 1.35 terawatt hours or 1,340 gigawatt hours saved through the IEE project. What does that equate to in South Africa? That equates to 130% of all the energy generated from Eskom hydropower stations put together. That is 37% of all the energy generated from the Eskom gas turbines put together. And that is 10% of all the energy generated by nuclear power stations in South Africa. So this is the impact. That energy, or that is a relief on the grid. Our Eskom systems did not need to supply that. And therefore, energy management is the first solution. If you, again, look at that graphically, look at that. The savings from the IEE project is more than hydro and the percentage figures that I just shared. So energy management is definitely the first solution. But why do we bring in standards? Why should we bring in ISO standards? Don't they really complicate the issue? Let's look at this. This is what is called the ad hoc approach to energy management. Generally, what happens with companies. So when costs are high, the organization looks at some waste cutting. What can we do to cut waste? We can fire a few people. We can shut down a few production lines. But there's one resource we can manipulate, and that is energy. So we can start doing energy management, look at some waste cutting, do some investment, put in some energy efficient lighting, and we're under control. The costs come down. But because it is not done in a systematic and sustainable manner, that cost will invariably rise. And when the cost rises again, you ask the question, oh, where's that report? Can you bring that out? Let's do another energy audit. Let's implement energy management on our plant. And here we go again. And this cycle will carry on endlessly until you bring a sustained solution. And that's what the standard brings about. The structured approach to energy management, or the energy management system, starts with top management commitment. That's what Alf alluded to. With top management committing to the program, they drive this initiative on their plant. They have the resources available, they provide a scope and boundaries, they develop an energy policy for the company, and they start doing some energy management work. And you can see you already start to save your energy before you even start investing on any technology, capital investment on the plant. And then you look at housekeeping, then eventually energy management becomes part of company culture, and that's the aim. Energy management becoming part of the responsibility of every member of the organization is what will bring sustained savings. And that is what energy management standards bring about. That's what the system brings about. I'll speak about the standards just now, but let's look at ISO 50001. That's the key. SANS ISO 50001 is the energy management standard. Its purpose is to enable organizations to establish systems and processes to manage energy sustainably and continually. And what's key is it is applicable to all organizations, regardless of what they produce, regardless of where they are, regardless of what sector in the economy they work in. The standard does not prescribe specific performance criteria. It does not say a mining company must be 15% efficient or an automotive must be 12% efficient. It allows the organizations to set its pace and work towards managing energy continually, and that's the key. It works on the general plan, do, check, act, Deming cycle, or the model of most management systems of the ISO standards. And it has two distinct components, a managerial component and a technical component that follow the same plan, do, check, act. And what's key, if you work with standards, you'll see this is a very strong numerical-based standard. There's a lot of calculation one has to do, and that's the technical component. But without the managerial component, that will fall through. So let's look at, in an overview, what are the standards that are available in South Africa that relate to energy management? You have a list here of 7, but technically there's 6, and I'll explain why. The first, or the topmost, is the Energy Management Systems, SANS 50001. That is the energy management standard that companies can implement. Then SANS 50002 is the Energy Audit Standard, which prescribe or give general guidelines on conducting energy audits. Then I'll jump 50003. 50004 is the guidance for the implementation, maintenance, and improvement of a standard of 50001, once you've implemented that. 50006 goes into some technical detail on the energy baselining and energy performance indicators, which are key to the energy review of an energy management system. And that's what brings about the sustainability of that. So these standards are supporting standards to 50001. Then the last two, 6 and 7, 50015 and 50010, are the measurement and verification standards. So 50010 is the national standard. You don't see ISO there, and 50015 is the international standard. And I'm very proud to say South Africa was the leading country in the development of 50015. So these two are the measurement and verification standards. Coming to 50003, that is the requirements for body providing audits for certification of an energy management system to see if it complies to 50001. So it's not really complicated. Your main standard is 50001. All of the other standards are supporting standards, and 50003 is the magnifying glass with which you will analyze whether that standard complies or certifies to 50001. So it doesn't really complicate the issue. These are tools that organizations can use to save energy. What's neat is 50,000 is very easily integratable with the other standards. It has a similar structure to 14,000, 9,000, other management system structures. And from TC242, we can tell you the ISO body is developing what is called a high-level structure, where all management system standards will have a very common template. So if you have any one standard, you can easily plug in and adopt other standards to it. So 50,001 is not really complicated. A lot of companies tell me, but you know what, we've got 9,000, we've got 14,000, please don't tell me about another standard. There's so much paperwork, there's so much complicated documentation that one has to do, but it's not really the case. A lot of the successes that I will share in the next coming slides are companies that have got 14,000 and 9,000 in place and were easily able to implement 50,001. I'll jump this in the interest of time, but if we have time, we can come back to that. It explains how an energy management system would work. Okay, let's look at global certification numbers. Let's look at some facts. How quickly are companies taking on 50,001? So some figures again, ISO has more than 19,000 standards that are published. 50,001 is the energy management standard, and it is rated as the fastest adopted standard in the history of ISO body. In 2011 it was released, and in 2012 there were more than 2,200 certifications. In 2013 there were nearly 5,000 certifications. Now unfortunately ISO has data that is sort of 1 year back, if I can put it that way. So you will not get 2015 data, you'll only get 2014 data that was sort of gathered in the mid of 2014. So you have 2012, 2013 figures, and you see the growth of 116%, the fastest amongst any other standard. It is estimated currently that globally there are more than 10,000 ISO 50001 certifications across the world. And GCEP is working on collating figures of all the savings associated with ISO 50001. So hopefully in the next coming conferences we'd be able to tell you the exact gigawatt hour impact that these standards have had. Again, this graphic explains the speed with which the certification was picked up. A number of 50,001 certified worldwide. In May 2014, that was 7,345 sites that were certified. The fastest adopted standard. And what's nice about 50,001 is, once you certify to it, to retain certification, you have to show energy performance improvement. Without energy performance improvement, you cannot maintain certification. That means that if a company goes for 50,001 certification, they are committing to improving on the kilowatt hours that they're saving. And that is the key. So a lot of times the question is asked, should we certify or not? And I would always say certify. It's that added leverage that companies can look at. Let's look at some known brands across the world. In the automotive sector, car manufacturers. In the UK, Bentley was the first automotive to get 50,001 certification. That was in 2012. In the USA, Subaru was the first to receive certification. And again, look at that. They certified to 9,000 and 14,000 as well. In Italy, who can guess? Ferrari, I hear. No, it's Lamborghini. Lamborghini was the first to be certified to 50,001. We should bring a sample here. And the trend filters down. So once you have an OEM that certifies to a standard, they require their component manufacturers to be certified to the standard as well. So component manufacturers are now 50,001 certified. Tenneco and Johnson Matthey, and I'll speak about them just now. In the food and beverage industry, PepsiCo and Coca-Cola were the first 50,001 certified. Other leading companies, China Steel, the Delhi International Airport, I've been there, it's fantastic. The Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, Pfizer, Ireland, Yokohama Tire Manufacturing in Thailand, these are all 50,001 certified. Let's look at in the news. The Standard recently made headlines where Hilton Group of Hotels, and we nearly stayed at the Hilton for this conference, we should have. Hilton declared that they had ISO 50001 certification for all their 4,200 hotel sites across the world, and that's fantastic. Toyota is the first automotive OEM in Japan, and I say that with a clause because they already have a Japanese standard which they certified to. But the first in Japan to receive certification, the Abu Dhabi City Municipality is 50,001 certified. MOL Shipping Lines, one of the largest shipping lines operational for 130 years, received the ISO 50001 certification for their bulk carriers in June of this year. Lafarge Tarmac in the UK received certification, and their target is the entire operation will be 50,001 certified by the end of 2015. Schneider Electric in South Australia on the 23rd of June received 50,001 certification. Interestingly, 23rd of June they received certification, and they had 23 energy conservation opportunities. Bridgestone Tire Company in Spain received certification. And again, these companies, in order to retain certification, will need to show continuous energy improvement. So you've got commitment from all these companies. Costa Coffee is now ready for certification. They had a 16% energy cut through behavioral change, which is very, very exemplary. IBM in Canada, Quebec, they had a 550,000 Canadian dollars saving in 2013, and they're now going for certification. Tata Global Beverages had 28,000 pounds saving in the second year and a 56,000 pounds in the first year. And again, look at that. That is key to not the project-based approach, but the continuous energy savings model that the standard brings about. Let's zoom in to home, South Africa. Let's look at some victories in South Africa. We have currently 8 certifications, companies that are certified to ISO 50001. You have Nampak Tissue, Valpray Spring Water, Johnson Matthey, and in the panel discussion to follow, we'll have Gavin Puckle, the engineering manager from Johnson Matthey, share some successes. Tenneco has 2 plants, VW and Gyprock Saint Gobain. And just 24 hours ago, exactly this time in Gauteng, the Zimco group of companies, G&W Minerals, through DQS received the ISO 50001 certification. And you can see by the sunny picture there, this is Joburg. compared to Durban. And they received the 50001 certification. This is the first in their group. Now, I want to take a pause here. G&W Minerals is part of a global Zimco group. Johnson Matthey is part of a global Johnson Matthey group. And these 2 plants in South Africa that have received ISO 50001 certification have set the benchmark for the rest of the groups across the world to follow. And I know Johnson Matthey is being called by all the other plants from Australia to the US to ask, what did you actually do? Can we follow your model? Can we adopt the system you've implemented to save the savings that you've actually saved? Some figures from the NCPC Energy Management System, and I've put them in increasing order. From the year 2010 up till March 2015, we've had 24 companies declare energy savings that they've actually achieved through the standard. And you can see that ranges from 85,000 to 764 million rands. And that plant has been active since 2010. And if I had the space, I would have showed you the detail of each year, those savings that these plants are actually achieving. So energy management standard, again, there's a need for energy management. Energy management is the first fuel, and the standard brings about that sustained energy saving that everyone is looking for. Let's look at Johnson Matthey. Johnson Matthey is ISO 50001 certified, one of the first. They had a number of projects that they implemented. 4 large projects and a few small Kaizen projects. And I'm very happy to announce, Gavin will share that these figures have actually gone up. They had total savings of 7.7 million rands in just 9 months of implementing the energy management system. The projects saved 4.5 million, and the balance was 3 million. Can someone guess where did that balance come from? You've got projects that save energy. What about where does energy saving happen in any other place in the plant? People. Behavioral change. 3.1 million through behavioral change. Guys, understanding to switch off things where they should not leave them on. And this is impactful. They spent 620,000 and they had a payback period of 1 month. Which finance manager would not like this? Tenneco, also ISO 50001 certified. They had a number of projects. Their savings were over 3 million rands. Their saving was 2.5 gigawatt hours. And over just under 2 million rand. And look at the payback periods. It is under 2 years. And these are low-hanging fruit that these plants have plucked. And they are now ISO 50001 certified. So to wrap up, in conclusion, there are 7, technically 6, national standards that support energy management. 1 standard is for certification. You cannot certify to the other standards. They are all supporting standards to that. Certification is not required, but the leverage is there for continual improvement. The standards combine both technical and managerial components and provide a structure for continual energy management in the company. That's my concluding slide. Thank you very much.